All right, so Mike McCarthy here today. We know this. This is an interesting thing about a month ago when Tom Pelissero went to Green Bay and talked to Coach McCarthy, and basically what he did, I thought it was fascinating. It's probably about a 5-6 minute video piece, and Peter King did it as well, but the video piece is really interesting with Pelissero because you can see what he did. He basically took a barn and turned it into an NFL coach's office.
Yep.
And Hazlitt was up there with him and some others, and they would basically treat the week like a game week.
Yep.
And go over film and all of these things, and it was just, Mike was so eager to get back into coaching. And when you look at his run, and it is a really astonishing run that he had with the Packers in Green Bay. When you talk about what he was able to do, obviously a Super Bowl champion, but it starts out at 8-8, and then 13-3, then 6-10, 11-5, 10-6, 15-1, 11-5, 8-7-1, 12-4, 10-6, 10-6, 7-9, 4-7-1, and was relieved of duties in 2018. But that is a run that nets him 125-77 and 2 ties, 10-8 in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Pretty remarkable run in Green Bay.
And then for his career in postseason and regular season, 50 games over 500, winning 60% of his games. He had 8 seasons with 10 or more wins, 9 playoff appearances, including 8 straight at one point. An incredibly successful guy who got his start in the NFL in 1993 with Kansas City and then quickly rose the ranks. He was their quarterbacks coach in Kansas City from 95 to 98, Green Bay quarterback coach in 99, Saints OC 2000, 2004, Niners OC 2005, and then Green Bay head coach from 6 to 18. And he basically applied himself to go back and look at everything that he did, evaluate it, take a look at all the things that are working around the NFL so that he can be up on modern concepts and college concepts so that when he comes back, he is ready to be a head coach in the NFL in 2020. And he's a guy, when you talk about experience, you talk about a guy who has done it, there is nobody available who touches his resume in the National Football League at this time. Nobody.
No, there's not. And I've talked to some people who played for him in Green Bay and worked in the Packers organization who just say nothing but glowing things of Mike McCarthy and just the way that he handles, the way that his players like him, the way that he carries himself in the building, the way that his teams carry themselves, the professional manner with which they went about their business. To me, from just a fit standpoint, he's the most known of all the commodities by a pretty wide margin when you look at who reportedly we are interested in interviewing, and of course him we can confirm is being interviewed. But he would be at the top of that list by a pretty wide margin. That in the fact that he is known, you know exactly what you're getting with him.
He is. He's very well known, as we talked about. Certainly, Elliot Wolf would know him very well. His father, Ron Wolf, the general manager for much of his time there with the Green Bay Packers, and so yeah, it would be certainly a match that makes a lot of sense on paper. If you're looking for somebody experienced, a strong leader, he's the guy that, from just a pure resume standpoint, has the best resume of anybody that's out there.
It's an incredible
what they've
one
done in the NFL.
See, I had, until I pulled it up, I did not remember the winning to be as much as it was by such a wide margin. I thought that there were a few more struggling seasons. There really weren't. It was pretty remarkable all the way through until the very end.
3 seasons with fewer than 8 wins,
yeah.
One of which was the Aaron Rodgers injury-shortened season. As I said, 8 seasons with more than 10 wins, 9 playoff appearances, a guy that really, he was for a long time very good. And now it's easy to say, well, he had Aaron Rodgers and he had Brett Favre.
Yeah.
And he did. And obviously that can lead to success. And the Packers are being very successful this year as well. But when you look at somebody who for a decade plus has been one of the ahead of the most successful programs in the NFL, obviously Mike McCarthy's name is done it. If you're looking for established, you're looking for somebody who has done it, who has the resume in the National Football League, his, compared to everybody else that's on the lists, stands alone.
He would have this is just my conjecture here. He would have, his ability to put together a staff would be quick and pretty comprehensive. He would probably know exactly who he would want to be bringing with him here if he was indeed hired. From a front office standpoint and just the structure of the building standpoint, it would be a next to nothing transition from the people we already have here, where many of them would be people who would be familiar with him. You think about our scouting department, you think about all the ties we have to the Packers organization. He would know so many faces here. It would be a pretty seamless plug and play potentially if it is a fit.
Yeah, and that's why there's a lot of talk that, Elliott, Wolf, and McCarthy could make sense. And obviously, Ron Wolf, I misspoke earlier, was gone before. Ted Thompson was the general manager when McCarthy's there, but Elliott was there.
And
Alonzo was there.
John would have been there too.
So you do certainly have some overlap from that standpoint. And again, it's going to be, and Paul DePodesta is very smart with processes, very smart in identifying what leads to organizational success. And if the determination is made that it's based on previous success in the NFL and that resume, his resume stands, as I said, it stands alone.
It stands alone, yeah,
amongst this group of people here. That doesn't mean he is necessarily the best candidate. They're going to have to see what his plan is, and I'm sure everybody who comes in is going to have to lay out a plan for not only the culture that they hope to bring, the leadership style they hope to bring, but also a plan for Baker Mayfield, because, as I said, Baker Mayfield's coach and the guy who picked him are neither of them are here anymore. But as an organization, your quickest path to success and long-term success is to get Baker Mayfield to be the guy that we all thought he was going to be as we watched him over the second half of the 2018 rookie season.
That's right. Yeah, and I would think that from in the case of McCarthy, as we're focusing on him right now, that what he was able to do with a young Aaron Rodgers would be very appealing. Now, Rodgers ends up being one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, obviously, and has tremendous physical talents and tools. But he was the guy who, McCarthy shepherded over that, and that matters. That's valuable.
He, at his time of departure from the NFL in 2018, spent 23 straight years either working with quarterbacks or coordinating offenses.
Yeah.
23 straight years. This isn't a guy that, he has been proven to be very good with the quarterback position. And I think that, as he said in the thing with Tom Pelissero, that when you do something for so long, you get very, not set in your ways, but it's much easier to evolve when you're able to get out of it and be able to see the forest from the trees and take that time in this year to self-scout and self-assess and take a look at everything else that's going around the NFL, and that he thinks he'll be able to come back and be a much more innovative coach. And the guy that you look at and say, who could he be like if he is able to do those things and get it right? And the answer is Andy Reid. And obviously,
I love that comparison. I think that's very similar.
That's what you're hoping. If you go with Mike McCarthy, what you're hoping is you're getting Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid, super successful in Philadelphia for all those years, was able to adapt everything that he did to the modern NFL game once he came to Kansas City.
Yep.
And Andy Reid, if I'm not mistaken, did he take any time? Was there a gap at all with Andy Reid?
I can't remember if there was a year if he went right back into it with Kansas City. But it was kind of the same thing where you just, it's very difficult to have these jobs for a dozen years. Most don't. So like the idea, and I think eventually your message wears out on guys and all of those things. I think that happened with Andy in Philadelphia, and it probably happened with Mike in Green Bay. But a chance to recharge and evolve, and away you go. And I love that comparison with Reid and the fact that both those guys were play callers, both those guys are quarterback guys, both those guys were able to take young quarterbacks and let them grow with them.
Yeah, I mean, of course they were. And it's interesting, when he left, Andy Reid left Green Bay in 1998 as at that point, assistant head coach and quarterbacks coach, the guy who replaced him in 1999 was, in fact, Mike McCarthy.
Right. Yeah, a lot of symmetry.
A lot of symmetry between those two. So that's what you're hoping. Both of them one-time Super Bowl champions. That's what you're hoping for. That's what you're hoping you get out of, that's what you hope you get out of a Mike McCarthy. That's the reason to make that move. That's the blueprint. That's what you're hoping to follow. That's what you're hoping works.